the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Wilton, joined by Sergeant Wilton. Glenn, how are you?
I'm excellent.
We have this invasion of these flying ants every single time that the weather warms up. They come in through our chimney, they come down into the fireplace, and then they go through all of the little holes, even if the flute is closed, and they fly around in our house.
What's funny is we didn't know that we had this problem all of a sudden this year, and we look over and little Bo was just rubbing his face on the ground, and we're like, what is his deal? And we go over and look, and there's a little group of like ants, like 5 of them, that he's just rubbing his face on. He's just smushing them with his face.
Yeah, so if you ever come over to our house, you'll see giant trash bags that are covering the entire face of our fireplace with, what do we have, masking tape around the entire perimeter of it with without a single hole being able to poke through. This isn't new. This happens every year. We've tried things like putting things inside of the fireplace, which is super dangerous, but there's no way to get rid of them except for blocking them out. And whenever the weather starts to cool down after, we remove this bag and there's like thousands of these dead flying ants inside of the trash bags.
Yeah, it's so weird because everything we've tried, we've burned, we've you name it, we've done it, and this has been the only thing that actually it prevents them from seeping into our house. It's not going to stop them from going into the fireplace, but it stops them from coming into the house, which is huge because then we don't have little ants crawling on us when we sleep.
Yeah, and that's totally disruptive towards our life. But another thing that's disruptive to a lot of people's lives is when you have reassignment with your job and your schedule.
I know how this is in working through these instances because one, it could be going from a day shift spot to a graveyard spot or vice versa. Like every time, especially like with my department, we have to go through this reassignment on a yearly basis, or in some departments it's every 3 months or every 6 months, and it uproots your routine, it uproots your habits of what you are used to, and you have to readapt. And it's not only hard for you as the individual having to do it, but it's hard for your family too, because they're not having the consistency coming from you because your work schedule's all messed up.
Yeah, and it could be a new partner, it could be a new shift, it could be a new unit. What happens on a primal level is that we're so used to that comfort and the habitual day in and day out that when something like that happens and it changes that, it makes everything that was familiar suddenly feel like it's gone. And then you have to learn how to readapt once again. And when this happens over and over again, it's actually super annoying. But in particular, it can be emotionally distressful, especially if it's the shift that's changing, because it's not just you, it's actually everybody else that's involved, including and especially your family. And there can be a lot of emotional realities that I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to this sort of tactical transition. And sometimes it might feel like you're starting over, even if you're not a rookie. And an example of this could be a veteran officer who switches units and then suddenly feels like they're out of place. Your confidence can drop. You can actually have this level of imposter syndrome that creeps in. It could be really hard.
Yeah, and having that, like going through my own career and looking at the different teams I've been on, is you're not always going to mesh with everybody exactly how you'd want to. There's going to be differing opinions. There's going to be changes to your normal day in, day out routine, and it's going to happen, and it's being okay with it. I think it's, someone said this is cops hate 2 things. They hate change and they hate the situation they're in. And in having that dynamic and really looking at it is every time you have new partners or you change your shifts, like you're going to really have an impact upon you mentally not only for your work life, but for your personal life too, because that inherently you'll bring home some of those stressors with you.
Something I've never heard anybody talk about is that when this happens, these types of changes, let's say that you're switching from a detail back onto patrol, for example, you actually have this silent mourning of your trusted partner or the team that you were on. And when that happens, it's this level of unspoken communication because now you have to sort of rebuild things from scratch. And that can be really tiring.
It's physically and mentally exhausting because it's like you're starting new. And it's funny. So I have this officer who I've known for a long, long time. He's been in special details. He's worked on special teams for a very long time, and he had to come back to patrol recently. Meaning it's 10 years he's not had to be on patrol because he's been in the special details. He comes back and it's like a whole brand new department for him because all the patrol staff is he doesn't know any of them, but he is a very experienced officer, and that dynamic has shifted for him because one, he doesn't know anybody, but two, he has to get back into a normal routine of things. He's not doing undercover work. He's not doing special team work, which he was really good at. But coming back to patrol, it's okay, you did good and you're on the special team. Now we're going to send you back to patrol and you're starting back over at that base level.
I'm thinking about, okay, does somebody like that ever go through have an FTO or something to get reintegrated?
He did for a couple of weeks just to learn the computer systems, not more so of how to deal with patrol calls or anything like that, but it was more so of just to learn the computer systems and how he has to incorporate different things now.
Yeah, so that's definitely a gap in the system, right? Mm-hmm. And also another unspoken one because, you've also experienced that being on details and then going back out onto patrol. And it is such a big culture shock, especially after that long. So yeah, exactly that, right? It's uncomfortable. Everything's brand new. You have been there longer than most of the people that you're patrolling out on the streets with, and yet you're the only one who feels like you're the rookie cop again. It's actually not fair to be placed in that situation without some level of transition, reintroductions, all of that type of stuff. So that's hard.
Yeah, and I could only imagine for him too. He's such a nice guy, and if you met him, you'd be like, oh, he's such a good guy. When did he start here? He seems brand new. But then I think the hardest part is you have these guys with 2 years on who egos are through the roof and they think that they're God's gift to this world. And he comes out and shows up on the calls and they're treating him almost like he's the boot that just graduated from the academy. And he's like, whoa, what the heck is going on here? Yeah.
And I think too, a lot of people might struggle with a new rhythm or a new routine. I know we're still going through that months and months in, you and I, Clint, and a new shift, it's going to throw off your sleep, your family time, your training schedule. This creates a lot of irritability, fatigue, and even disconnection, which again, I know that you and I are struggling with.
Yeah, having that dynamic shift is, especially when you've had the same schedule for so long and then having to completely uproot your schedule and change to something else. It's a struggle, and being able to find that balance it takes time and takes work to be able to change that dynamic.
I think too, it's important for us to normalize that level of grief that comes with change. And I know grief sounds like such a detrimental word, but it truly is grieving when something like this is changing because you're having to disconnect and then let go of all of those relationships and all of that normalcy. And I think it's important to allow yourself to kind of feel what you're feeling, and that loss of something familiar is still loss.
Yeah, and you having that acceptance for yourself it's I think that's a hard pill to swallow with it, but being able to reintegrate, being able to reincorporate the new habits, the new kind of, this is your new life, being able to adapt and make those changes to adjust your life and your schedule it's hard to do, but it's very important that you do it.
Yeah, and going back to the example that you shared, Clint, I think that setting short-term goals for that particular officer will allow them to be able to regain that level of control. So basically mastering one part of the new routine at a time, but mostly letting that confidence build brick by brick. And most importantly, to make sure that you're communicating early with your new partner or your new team, you're building rapport, you're being transparent, but most importantly, you're kind of executing on that level of stature because you've already earned that.
Yeah, and I think with bringing in, showing, okay, this is who I am, introducing yourself, getting out of your comfort zone and almost reestablishing not your dominance per se, but in a way, depending on the situation, is saying, look, hey, I'm part of this team. We're partners together. Let's take care of each other, not me coming in and saying, okay, treat me like shit.
Yeah, totally. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.